That's what they're doing. Exactly that. Yes, they're doing exactly that. 10 times. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for coming out to Daily Cyber episode number 279. Hope everyone's having a great year. Right now we're in Q4. There's a lot going on. Hopefully you're seeing the sprint and everything's going on and you're pretty busy. Not too busy, kind of balanced out, but I know I'm talking to a lot of colleagues and it's that end of year sprint where a lot of people are closing up projects, trying to get them finished, and then looking at, what is the next year? What does 2026 Q1 look like? So a lot of budget and planning. So today, I want you guys to take your time. We're going to have some conversations about some security ideas and concepts and things that I'm dealing with and I'm working through. And then as we say, this is an Ask Me Anything, so you can ask me a whole bunch of questions that you guys have from cybersecurity to career, whatever that may be, as we go through. We'll try to keep the topics flowing and just the information. And I want to make sure this is really of value. And I think that my main goal, and just if you guys don't know me, my name is Brandon. I run KNSS Consulting. I'm a fractional vCISO. Work with clients all across the US and Canada. I've had clients globally as well. And I just really help organizations understand their current security posture, build a program, and drive their initiatives with their internal and external teams to really get things going. And I've done that for a couple of years now, on top of some individual consulting advisory when I started way back. Have IR experience driving a program for as an advisory program with other advisors. So I've worked with all different types of industries, companies, organizations from all different sizes. So to give you an idea where I'm coming from is from that experience, seeing clients go through an incident response, see clients, at the worst day of their lives, their team going through a ransomware or business email compromise or network intrusion, and how to deal with it, and seeing them really evaluate and assess their program and their security posture and how to improve it, people, process, technology, and help them guide that through it. So I've had the fortunate experience to work with amazing people, from security experts on the customer/client side to vendors, partners, and their amazing teams. I want to give a shout out to Security 360. I've been working with them for a few years, and I've had clients that I've worked with, and they show up every single time. So I want to give them a shout out. But that's my background experience and why I want to go into this. So today is going to be a lot about just different concepts and ideas that I'm going through when it comes to cybersecurity. And I want you guys to kind of, let me know if there's things that you want me to cover for this episode or next. So I'm really excited about this, just to continue the education. So grab a coffee, grab a tea, and let's hack at it. So there's a lot going on in the industry. Like I said, Q4, it's pretty busy for a lot of organizations, building out their programs, looking at what they need to do. I know one client I'm working with right now I'm looking for the initiatives of, what are they working on when it comes to their security posture, their staffing, their teams, their budget. They're kind of really going through it. So pen testing, vulnerability assessment, compliance, and regulatory, it's end of year. So a lot of companies are trying to get that in by the end of the year and make sure they're compliant and they're going through the renewals. So a lot going on right now. So one of the things I want to go through in a conversation that's happening over and over again is that AI. We have this conversation about AI. The rise of the shadow AI is something I want to talk about, and I'm seeing it more inside of organizations about how we use it and give context. So many people use AI. I mean, it is in a lot of tools, applications, things along that line. It's a great tool to use, but we have to be mindful in our security mindset is, well, how are we using it in a secure manner? Are we sharing information? Are we sharing organization information? Are we sharing confidential information? Are we putting things into the AI that we shouldn't be? And when you look at the shadow IT aspect of it, and I'm seeing it more and more of people circumventing, either one, lack of policies, right? And I want to be very, blunt and straightforward here. I'm not saying companies are not doing their due diligence and going through it, but there's some companies and organizations that haven't addressed AI in their organization, how it's going to be used, having an AI policy, and maybe combine it with their acceptable use policy, their IT security policy, whatever that may be. They haven't really encompassed that. So it's kind of one of those things. It's a gray area. Can I use it? Can I not use it? Can I use ChatGPT? Can I use, any other tools? Are we allowed to use these note monitoring tools in our, team Zoom chat, our meetings, and have it listen to our meetings, take notes, and give us a recap. Are we allowed to do it? Are we not allowed to do it? Like, there's some of these companies that have gray areas. So when you look at Shadow IT, and I made some notes here for this session, is that the new Shadow IT is employees using unapproved AI tools to write code, summarize documents, or analyze data without oversight. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of companies I see that they're doing that. Like, there's this gray area where, oh, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do it, because the company hasn't done a top-down approach of setting up the due diligence of, you can use it for this, you can use it for that, and then putting in controls in place to make sure they're monitoring what data is being input, what data is not. Like, I know some organizations are creating an on-premise, now it could be cloud or it could be an instant of an LLM or some sort of AI tool in their environment, but is isolated to their environment. It only works with an environment. It doesn't communicate outside of their environment, right? It doesn't have external access. So I see companies doing that, which is great, because then they can, contain the information that's going into the LLM or the AI tool, and making sure it's not getting out. I know, and I mean, there's things that security people use them for. And I'm going to talk about some of the things I like. When a client says, okay, Brandon, can you create me a policy? Some of the times, if I don't have a policy, I'll look at ChatGPT or something and see if they have a template, right? And I'll go, okay, what's your style guide? What's this? And I'll start to create a template around what I think they're going to need of executive summary, overview, like that, the table of contents. I'll create that with ChatGPT and build out the structure of it quickly. And then I'll start to look at, the content. And then I'll make sure that the content's relevant to the organization. But I can build that out a lot quicker than having to build that out from scratch. I know there's templates and stuff like that you can grab offline. Sans has, lots of great ones too. So there's a lot of great ones you can do that with. I'm just saying there's things like that we might use it. Now, I don't put confidential information or company specific information into ChatGPT. I create the template and bring it down, and then start entering it in, and then start using it for that client. So to look at my workflow of how I use AI tools, a lot of times when I'm doing research, I'll use AI. Like, I want to say, okay, tell me about, the top 3 EDRs. Tell me about the top 3 SIMs. Tell me about that. Let me know if there's been any compromises or anything with these organizations. Give me, where are they ranking Gartner? Where's that? What's the reviews? I'll have it, give me a report, and then I'll look over and say, okay, how am I going to down select some of them, and then start calling them and do a demo, proof of concept, things along that line. So it helps me to narrow down versus me doing all that reading and research. It'll help me to shortlist organizations that I might go, okay, I'm going to look at this partner, this vendor, this manufacturer. I'm going to do that. I'm going to start contacting them because it seems like they're getting, good rankings, and I'm going to go that way. But I'm not putting any confidential information. I'm not putting any company specific information. I'm putting in some, like, I need an EDR solution that has a way to distribute through the organization, has a console, monitoring tools, being an update, like things like that. I'll put some of my criteria, but I won't say company A, B, and C. I need an EDR for company A, B, and C, who's a dog grooming business that does. I won't put that information in ChatGPT and then have it do its query. I'll put specific information based on the variables and the criteria that I need that tool to do. So just to kind of give you some ideas. Talked about sensitive data exposure through AI prompts, how one can copy and paste a ChatGPT. Gemini can leak IP or client information. Again, like I said, copying it from statement of work, a spreadsheet, whatever that may be, a Word document, and copying it over to ChatGPT and asking it to do something, but there's confidential information in those documents. Real examples, confidential data actually trained into public AI models. Again, they did that by accident. How to create AI use policy that enables productivity without sacrificing privacy. So the question comes down to, and I know some of the people might be asking, so, okay, so then what can I do? You have to look at, one, how can you contain the information if you want to use the LLM or AI tool to be able to make your organization more efficient, be able to pull up more data, whatever that may be. You have to look at how can you use that in a contained system that's not going to publish that information. If it's not contained and it is a public tool, then you have to look at, limiting the information that you can put in there. And that's through that policy. No PHI, PII information, confidential business information, financial information, and you'll have this laundry list of what people cannot enter into the AI tool. And through that process, you have to have an accountability model that if that is found that has happened, there could be a potential for termination. So you have to have that, because in an employment documentation policy agreement, whatever that may be, if there's no accountability, I can just say, well, sorry, I didn't know I was doing something and I thought I could do that. And it's kind of a slap on the wrist. You want to make sure it doesn't breach confidentiality and puts the organization at risk, because the information they put out there could be taken, shared, whatever that may be, and put the company in the company/organization in a bad position. So something to think about when you're writing policies. Importance of defining safe data zones for AI experimentation with companies' boundaries. So that's what I was talking about, having that in a way that you can contain the information and then test it, right? Test it with false data. Test data, like I'm saying, like dog groomer business in Alaska, does that, see where that data goes, how does it transfer, like it doesn't go out anywhere. Right? If it doesn't, then do another test, and just make sure you feel confident that the data is secure. Building AI governance frameworks, model transparencies, ethical data use and access control, things we talked about. Making sure that potentially reducing privilege access, and what I mean is anyone that has confidential data maybe might have limited access, right? Least privileges to use these tools, versus maybe someone like, and I'll use example, someone in marketing might not have as much confidential information. Maybe they're building up marketing plans, they're doing graphic design, they're creating videos, and they're using some AI tools, and it's really more efficient for them and easier for them to do it. They might have more access to do it, versus the accounts payable and the accounts receivable person might have less access because they have more access to confidential information. So something to think about. And these are things that, like I said, throwing out ideas and things that I'm going through my conversations day in and day out, just to best practice on how to secure AI in the environment. Leadership challenges, balancing innovation with compliance and brand trust. So I'm seeing more and more as organizations are going through, they're getting asked about their AI policy. What's your AI policy? How do you handle data? How do you secure it? How do you protect it? Do you have any AI tools in the environment, and how are they used? And have you done your due diligence on those organizations, companies, platforms? So we're seeing that more and more. So something to think about if you're going to actually use an AI tool. There's a whole governance model that you need to go through, from evaluating the tool, compliance, security, understanding that third-party compliance, going through that, then going through a proof of concept and a demo, making sure the data is protected, then going from development, that proof of concept, to actually production, and then having tools to monitor that as you go through, supported by policies that it's going to, control the user interaction and engagement. So that's people and processes around that. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Just looking here, I have a few questions. Any advice for current cybersecurity students to get a foot in the door? That's a good question. So I find right now with people breaking into the industry, a couple of things you need to know is who you know. Right? Do you know anyone in the industry that is in cybersecurity, right? That can start to help you network, meet people, build up your relationships. And because the biggest thing that I find when it comes to cybersecurity is it's about relationships. Right? It's so hard right now in this day and age to throw out your resume and get someone that's going to say, hey, I'm interested. I'm finding, and this is my own personal view, that it's more about connecting with your network, seeing if they know someone or opportunities, and then being able to get those connections to introduce you to someone that might have an opportunity that now you can start having a conversation with. Now, if you're looking at like this situation where you want to have a student, a college student, university student break into cybersecurity, volunteer at non-for-profits, smaller type businesses, right? Maybe you can do some consulting at a smaller size. And what you want to do is you want to get some hands on keyboard. You want to be able to look at patch management, how to secure the environment, making sure they're staying up to date, securing their network, backups, resiliency in the sense of if the systems go down, can they restore, right? Looking at data at rest and encryption. You kind of want to go through that checklist and make sure you know that inside out and you feel comfortable having those conversations as a security professional. And then also look at tooling, endpoint protection, servers. And now I'm going to start on the one side, I'll call the blue side, and then I'll go on the red side, which is more setup configuration. I call the blue side breaking down, compromising, more the red side. So the blue side, you want to make sure that you understand, the IT side, computers, laptops, desktops, endpoints, servers, network topology, configuration, data communication, data flow, right? And how data flows from switches to routers to firewalls and all the way through, and the different of segmentation. You want to understand that and know it fairly well. Then from there, you want to go, on the red side, how can these be compromised? Not patching the systems properly, misconfiguration, not having a clean image, right? And configuration hardening, having a flat network and it's not segmented from it, anyone's on the network. If they get in, you have access to everything and all things, right? How to isolate the servers, how to configure servers, how to look at, hardening switches and routers and firewalls. Understanding that, and then you can see how to compromise them is a really good way to break into the industry, because then you can start talking about the things that you've done and you help people with and harden. And also you want to get into areas where you're a security analyst, a junior security analyst, and you're learning and you're getting a mentor to teach you and bring you up. That way you can see on what works and what doesn't. That was a lesson learned for me when I was in sales, cybersecurity sales. What I found was, and it's kind of funny, a lot of times you get these battle cards. Oh, this works. It's next generation. It's, innovative. It's this, it's that, all these marketing terms. And you sit there and you kind of go, oh, I guess that's going to stop ransomware in its tracks. And you're never, ever going to be attacked by ransomware. Then I worked into response and realized very quickly on a couple engagements fast that, oh, hold on. I actually sold not to that customer / client. I didn't sell that product, but I know about that product. I know how it works. That's not supposed to they're not supposed to be in front of an IR person if they have that in their environment. What went wrong? And then you start hearing misconfiguration, not monitoring, like all these different challenges of people and process and, configuration and tuning of the technology and monitoring it. And you start to realize it's a whole piece of a pie that needs to be incorporated and constantly managed to be able to be successful with security tools and being able to make sure that you have the right people in place. So hopefully that answers your question. There's a lot there to unpack. If you have questions, I know the community is really great. Go in the community, go in the Discord and start asking, but you want to make sure you know those areas. Again, I'm going to go through them just to recap, just anyone else is new. All right. You want to go through desktops, laptops, endpoints, how to configure them, how to protect them, how to secure them properly. Right. You want to go through setting up images, proper images and hardening them. Servers, same thing. Right. You want to make sure you know how to configure them and harden them properly, and look at all the different types of servers from Active Directory to database servers, right across the board, from Radius, virtual machines, you name it. You want to know each of those types of servers and how they're configured and how to harden them. Then you want to understand, data at rest, data in motion and encryption, network topology, firewalls, switches, hubs. You want to know all that, how to set that up, how to configure it. And then you want to go on the other side is how would you compromise those? So really good question. Just give me a second here. Give me a second here. And then for Shadow AI, just wanted to mention that threat of unintentional data sharing via AI clients sitting on individual devices in an overprivileged manner. AI browsers, CLI agents, etc., that live on endpoints and collect data on the device's network and shares, etc. 100%, right? That's 100%. Like this, good point. I mean, we have all different AI tools. I mean, I was tracking one guy that was sending a newsletter out over and over again about new AI tools, and it was 100, another 100, another 100, another 100. I was like, holy cow, like you can't really keep up with this. There's just so many different AI tools that are coming out that you're like, okay, like how do you start to limit and protect? And I think the biggest thing for us as security professionals is now you want to limit to a very concise tooling of AI tools that should be used in the organization, right? And I know one of the things I'm finding myself is some of the big manufacturers of applications, Adobe, Microsoft, whatever that may be, are incorporating AI into their tools, software applications, whatever that may be. And you have to be mindful, well, what does that mean? You have to ask that question, like, okay, how does that work? What data is it observing or collecting? How is it utilizing that data? Is the data being anonymized or masked or encrypted? Like, how is it being protected? Are they collecting PHI or PII data or any corporate or confidential information? Like all these questions you want to ask before you let that tool in your environment. So good comment. Next topic I wanted to go over today is the economics of cyber defense. Why ROI still matters. It's kind of funny, tongue twister day. So when we look at security, you put your I'm going to put like an analyst, lower kind of security, hands-on keyboard person's mindset on. A lot of times we're looking at making sure the security tools that are in place are ones that are going to protect the organization. And we're driving that. Like you need DLP, you need, email filter, you need this. And we're like pushing the organization to be able to implement those tools, right? Because what happens is we see it as security people that if you don't have it, there's going to be a compromise. If you don't have that security measure, that control, there's going to be an issue. So you need to put in place, you need to fully execute it. Sometimes, not all, but I'm going to say this I'll say this on my point of view and from my perspective. When I first got into this, I didn't take into consideration budgets, finances. Like it's a company, they have money, they have to spend it, they have to protect it. Like you need it. If you need, 1,000 EDR licenses, you need to get them. Like I don't understand why we're having this conversation, why I'm getting this pushback. And I think that's one of the challenges when we look at the return on investment, right? For us, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, you need to protect the organization. You need DLP. You need this. You need that. You need endpoint protection. You need a SIM. You need a firewall. You need that. Like, why aren't we getting the best, enterprise level elite tools to be able to protect the organization? Then when I started to move up in organizations to more of a C level, I understood I need to start thinking more of the business and how to protect the business from a top-down approach. And then what tool or security control is going to give me the biggest security security coverage and help me versus trying to have every and all tools, right? And I'll use an example. I'll use software as a software development, like a software development lifecycle. You go through these questionnaires. You look at NIST or ISO or whatever, and you go through it and all that. And in the Center for Information Security, CIS, and a lot of times they have in a section that it's software development lifecycle. So you think, okay, I need to check all the boxes: EDR, SIM, vulnerability management, penetration test, do policies, documentation, and now we have a software development lifecycle. I need to get that in place. I need to make sure. But hold on, what if we don't develop software? What if that's not even in our expertise? What if we don't do that? Like, what if we don't have any software we develop? We don't do any scripting, any coding, anything along that line. Most of our software is either SaaS based or off the shelf. We don't do any customization like that. Well, why would I need a software development lifecycle? My mindset at one point was you need to check the box. You need to have it. Like we need to do that, right? Even though we don't have it, we need to get that done and we need it in place. As I started getting more mature, I realized when you talk to auditors, when you talk to any security professionals, there's a rationale of what is in the environment and what needs to be protected, and also what you need to defend, i.e., and I'll use an example, your vulnerability management, patch management program, your privileged accounts. Those are something you're going to be asked about, and you're going to have to look at how do you defend those questions. Yes, we have these, these controls in place. This is how we manage it. This is how we monitor. This is our reporting. This is how we review them constantly and ongoing. And this is how we make sure we protect the organization. Perfect. Well, if I don't have a software development program, I don't develop software, why am I defending software development as one of my controls? I don't need to. We don't do that. Well, what do you mean? And I've had these questions like, what do you mean you don't develop software? We don't have any software in our environment that we customize, program, code, anything along that line. Either it is a SaaS-based solution by Workday, Salesforce, an ERP solution. We don't have any development in those areas. We use Office 365 as our email client, maybe, SharePoint as our file storage, all, potentially SaaS-based. So there's nothing in our environment that we do custom coding. And you get the auditors on that kind of go, okay, check, right? You don't meet that. And I think we need to get into the mindset of, and that's where I talk about understanding the organization from a top-down approach. What do we truly need to protect? And Milo was one of the guys I talked to a couple years ago. He was teaching me about really understanding data, right? Because systems can go down, systems can be compromised, systems can be, hacked, whatever that may be. But if you have to bring up a system, there's no data. And I'll use this example. There's no data on that server. There's nothing confidential, but you have to restore that server. The impact of that is minor, potentially. Might be an impact where you're down for a couple hours to restore. Sometimes it's a virtual machine with that where it's a couple hours and you're back up again. But it's the data that is the one that's going to have you the most impact when you're looking at an event, because if that data is not accessible, and you look at the CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, if the data is not available or the data has been compromised in some way, that impacts the business directly and can impact the business for hours, days, not even longer, right? Depending on the event or what you're dealing with. But if a hardware device fails or you need to restore a server, the impact is reduced. I'm not going to say it's minimal, but it's more reduced. So something to think about is when you're going through this, the return on investment is how are you protecting data, right? And then you look at EDR, right? SIM, DLP, right? Email filtering, like things along that line. All these segmentation help to protect data. Two-factor authentication, privilege accounts, least privileges, right? Role-based access control. All these help to protect access to accounts data, right? So you're really thinking about that. That is where you get your keys to the kingdom. And then look at patch management, vulnerability management, make sure that you don't have any open doors or access points to the environment where they can walk right in and get access to the data. So thinking about that. So going through some of the points I wanted to draw out here. Security is often seen as a cost center. And a lot of times you can make it as a business enabler. Now, some of the things that how I made it as a business enabler and some of the things I learned as I was going through was the stronger your security posture is and that you can articulate it, the more attractive you are to potential clients and customers that want to work with you. Because what happens is you can say you have a more secure program and the confidence building of that relationship now becomes higher. There's clients that I've worked with where have a really strong governance and compliance program where they're getting questionnaires from outside partners and vendors, and they're able to roll those over and say, yes, we have SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001, they have PCI DSS, whatever that may be. I'm just going through HIPAA. They have those certifications and they have those documentations that they can present to partners, vendors, clients. And also now the confidence like, oh, they are in a good position when it comes to security. So if we work with them our relationship, at least on the technical side, has better security than maybe another partner or client they're working or customer they're working with that might not have their security as mature. So that's one area where you can start looking at as a business enabler, is that security is part of your sales process and showing how I'm just trying to think of the best way to say this, how essential it is to your organization to drive your business. So when I, years and years ago, 5-10 years ago, if not longer, when I got into, IT and cybersecurity, a lot of times when we talk about security, it was a second or third thing. We do this, we do that, we're innovative, we have IT, we have infrastructure, we have backups, and all of a sudden, and oh, by the way, we have security. Over like the years, I'm seeing security start to move up to now being a part of the leading conversation about what you offer, what you do. And also, by the way, we have really strong security posture and programs that we manage through our organization. So now it's a real strong talking point that when you start to have that conversation with any vendor, partner, customer, it really drives the initiative to work with you, not only because of your product, your service, and the quality, but because how you're thinking about securing yourselves as well as your partners. So something to think about. Calculating the ROI, right? Downtime avoided, legal costs prevented, and brand damage mitigated. So when you have, and again, I want to be mindful here, is that when you have a security program that meets your business needs, not, again, and that's why I'm being clear, is some people think, okay, I'm a $20 million, $10 million organization, and I need to spend $1 million to $5 million in security because I just need to do it. I need to protect myself. I need all these things. If that's not the right size for your business, because you don't need all the security controls, you need the essentials, and that might be, under $1 million, $500,000, whatever that means, that budget that you spend from resources, people, process, technology. If that's the case and it works for your business and protects your organization, that's the right size, as long as you can manage it. And I think that's the biggest thing that we have to think about is, how do you manage your security? Not making shelfware or self security solutions where you put in the place just to say you check a box. I have EDR. Great. I check a box. I have a SIM. Check the box. Great. I have my firewalls are in place. I have firewalls. Yes. Check. Well, have you configured the firewalls? Are you monitoring the firewalls? Are you monitoring your SIM? How do you get your alerts? Are you actually taking action when you get alerts? So all those things have to be managed properly. So you have to budget that in to understand your return on investment, to have a good, strong security posture for your business size. So thinking about that is really important, and right sizing it for the organization that it can be managed ongoing. I've had, organizations, companies go through an incident and it's open checkbook. I need everything, right? I need everything right now. And I understand that the fear, the reality of that fear is they don't want to get hit again. And I 100% agree with that. The question is, what are they going to do in 60 days? What are they going to do in 90 days? Can they manage those tools? Can they make sure that they have visibility and they're being properly managed? If not, that's not the right size. They need to be able to manage the security controls they have in place. Translate security metrics into financial outcomes, reduce risk, revenue preventions, revenue preservation. So when you look at that, if you guys have any questions about this, really you're looking at, when we're talking about right size and making sure the risk is, and I'll use as an example. This is something I learned when I was studying the CISSP and kind of going that direction. If the risk is $10,000, you're not going to spend $100,000 to mitigate that risk, right? If the risk is $10,000, you're going to spend potentially $10,000 or maybe just a little bit more initially in the budget, and then you're trying to maintain below that to maintain that ongoing so it doesn't come up again, right? So I'll use an example. DLP. Say you have a DLP solution. I know this is not the right numbers. I'm just using round numbers for this, for example. But say you have a problem with DLP. DLP is a risk to your organization. You want to make sure that data doesn't go out in your environment, that it's protected, that you get alerted and you stops any type of confidential PI data from leaving the environment. It's blocked, quarantined, it's alerted, and then you're notified from any individual that's trying to send out that information. So you have a DLP solution. Say that DLP solution, for your environment, you did license, the risk of that not being in place, and that cost of that risk right now is $10,000. Well, on the other side, if you go get a DLP license, the first setup and configuration might be $15,000, but ongoing licenses and be able to maintain it going forward might be $7,000. Well, once you do that, you do the math, yes, you're going to have an initial cost, but the ongoing operations cost, right, might be, like I said, $5,000 to $7,000 ongoing year to year. Well, that's an acceptable cost to be able to reduce that risk and now have more confidence that data will not be leaving your environment because you have tools in place. So then that preserves and improves your security posture, reduces the risk, and then you potentially can, look at your preservation of your revenue, is then now protects the organization so you don't have to deal with any breaches, compromise, things along that line that now you might have to be reporting on, you might have fines on, you might have to pay outside parties and vendors. Say you do an event, a security event, and your security premiums go up, right? And your insurance policy goes up. So things to think about. How to prevent cybersecurity investments in a business terms language. This tool says X hours of analyst time. So when you look at that automation innovation, right, things along the line of, can you set up tools that will innovate and streamline security, which then will be more cost effective, right? Looking at the controls, this control reduces the probability of breach by X percentage. Now, that one's one of those ones where you wet a rag and stick it to the wall, right? Because it's going to give you more visibility, and any security control, if it's managed properly, is about reducing the impact, meaning your alert time to be able to identify an incident and go and be able to work on that, be able to contain it, stop it, quarantine it, is really important when you have these tools. And that's going to reduce the actual potential for the breach, and how your team works through that day in and day out. Not this organization selling this product says, if you put this product X, Y, and Z in your organization, it's going to reduce your potential for being breached by 85%. It's only quantifiable if you actually run that tool and test those metrics with the data that's coming through the alerts, in and out, day in and day out, that you get an alert, they take action. False positive, false negatives, actually real alerts. You guys are taking actions time and time again. Will give you that benchmark to be able to say, okay, from previous, if we didn't have this tool and it came through, the potential for us to have that impact was a lot higher, potentially, whatever percentage. Now we've reduced that percentage because the time on incident has now reduced. Now you can have those the data points. You can start talking about that, because we've had a phishing campaign. We've had a potential brute force attack, but we've stopped those within this amount of time, 15 minutes, 1 hour. We've done that. We've contained it. There was no compromise or access. They didn't get through the environment. They weren't able to do it. We locked the account. We reset it. We did all the great things, and there was no access. Perfect. Now you can have those talking points and that data points to be able now to discuss that through having a return on investment when it comes to these security controls. Switch towards quantitative risk analysis and cybersecurity metrics, things that we talked about, prioritizing investments based on impact or what truly moves resilience forward. Things that to think about, what removes resilience forward: visibility in the environment, EDR, right, SIM, SOC, right, anything that can alert you on something that's not suspicious, something that's suspicious or malicious in the environment. Having good response teams, being able to respond that makes you resilient, and then having a backup and redundancy plan that if anything does happen, you can restore fairly quickly. So having a business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan that aligns to the tooling and how you set up your recovery process. Using scorecards and maturity dashboards to communicate progress over time. We talked about tracking data, looking at management, running reports. making security measurable, visible, and defensible at the executive level. Now, as we talk through this, all that data points, everything we're talking about, time, data, reporting, alerts, looking at the analytics, that all that can be pulled over into some sort of metrics that now you can report to the executive level of, here's where we started, here's where we are now. And then hopefully, knock on wood, you're going to start to see a reduction in one area and improvements in other areas, right? So you're not going to be able to talk that we had X amount of alerts. And I'll just use an example. We had 500 alerts per day. We've now looked at where those alerts were coming from. We've hardened that. Now we're having 50 alerts per day. And now we're looking at those 50, and we're potentially by the end of this quarter, we're going to have 10 to 20, right, as we go through. And because we've identified what's being alerted, and we're either patching it, we're sunsetting those devices, whatever that may be, right? And now you look at how you can speak to senior leadership on how these tools and the program is now improving the environment. I know that was a little bit of a download. Let me know if you guys have any questions about that. I know that was a lot of information to cover. I know one of the things for me, which is extremely important, and why I'm having these conversations and going through this, is trying to give people a different mindset, of a holistic view of what to think about, right? Not thinking all business, not thinking all technical, but being able to move between the two. Technical solutions, technologies, security controls, things like that. But how do you move and pivot to the business side, understand the financial, understand the risk and liability, and how to present this in a way that you're going to get buy-in from your leadership, from your manager to your director, from your VP, all the way up to the CIO, the CISO, that you're going to get buy-in, that you can start, okay, they're interested. I need to find out what their challenges are, why this might not move forward, on at least from their perspective, and how do we bridge that gap? How do we bridge that gap? So when we have that conversation, the essential things that I feel we need, we're in lockstep. We agree. The things that are nice to have, there's something that are future, and we're both in agreement that we can talk about that in 2026, potentially some of the quarters, one of the quarters, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So something to think about as you guys go through. Hopefully this is helping you guys really open up your mind, kind of like, because my feeling is the community, from the people I've talked to, are extremely tactical and knowledgeable, right? And some of the guys have more leadership roles in the environment. I want to bring everyone up to be able to talk on both sides, right? I want to be able to share that, because I think the important thing right now is to be able to be that collaborative security person in the organization. It builds such a strong relation and rapport that you're the trusted person that they're going to go to. Give me a second here. And the next topic I want to cover is this, the psychology of cyber offense and defense. Something that I think you've heard of some of my guests too talk about psychology, our emotions, and what we deal with, and things along that line, how to be the calm in the storm. It's actually interesting. I'm just remembering, I had a conversation with a colleague last week, and we're talking about, when you're dealing with incident response, one of the strongest points that you can have as an IR lead is not taking on the situation as your own, and not going into battle with everyone on the phone. Meaning, is it a security expert from the client side? Is it, trying to think, is it counsel, carrier? Is it forensics? Is it someone else? Is it MSP, MSSP? Are you sitting there and are you going through and trying to hold your ground, right? Because you're the IR lead and everyone needs to do it your way. And if they don't do it your way, then it's wrong and you need to fight for your position. One thing you have to remember on our side is we're the ones trying to balance out the whole incident. We're the ones in the actual engagement that they need us to be that calm, to level set everyone, set expectations, get everything moving forward, right? When people are tired, fatigued, they're frustrated, they're upset. I mean, I've been in incidents where people swore at me, told me off, whatever that may be. And by the end of the incident, they're thanking me, right? Because they can be mad at me all they want. They can swear all that. I know it's not me because I just met them. I didn't say anything that upset them. I didn't say anything about them, their business, whatever that may be. So I'm like that customer service person that they got something frustrated. And I use the analogy when I was talking to another colleague, is that you're like that customer service person where something's not working. They got so built up and frustrated not working. They're going to call support. They call support and you're that support and they start yelling at you and you're like, hello, sir. Sorry. Like I didn't do this. Right. But your goal is to be that calm in that storm. So you can have that conversations. Okay. I understand, this is a terrible situation. What do you need from me? How do I get this going forward? What help do you need on the technical side? Do you need, us to drive the program? Like, tell me what you need so we can help you get out of the situation. And they might escalate again. They might go through that, but it's up to us as security professionals to be that calm. Now, you're going to get that in any situation from potential. And I want to draw out another point about deliverables, but you're going to get that in a lot of situations where people are frustrated and they're maybe not understanding or not having the right expectations. Now, the other flip side of the coin is when you come into these situations, you better be confident that you either know what you know and are able to clearly, concisely answer, or defer to be able to get them answer as quickly as possible. Meaning, that's a great question. I'm going to make a note of it. Give me an hour. Give me the end of day. I'll email you back with this response, or I'll give you a shout. Like, you need to be that consistent and concise, and really, and this is really important. You really need to be able to drive the program and deliver at it. Doesn't matter what security position you are. You need to be able to do that, because if you're getting yelled at, and I don't know why I'm putting this at, if you're getting yelled at and you can literally go, yeah, I didn't do that. Like, I didn't show up. I didn't provide the information in a timely manner. I didn't answer the question correctly. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And now they're yelling at me. You kind of go, okay, this is a 50-50. One, they shouldn't be yelling at me. That's fine. But also, I understand the stress, the overwhelm, but I didn't do my part in this job. I didn't show up. All right. So you have to do that too. So it's a little bit of balance, right? A little bit of balancing action, accountability, and being able to learn from it. I'm not saying go home and rock on a rocking chair like, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. I'm the worst security person ever. But at least kind of be accountable going, shit, like I didn't do that. Like I need to show up. I need to do this. I need to do that. If I'm going to say I'm going to do something, your word is your bond. I'm going to do it, or at least I'm going to get as close as possible and then let them know. Like, I'll give you an example. I had, what was it? A month or two ago back, someone was asking me to fill out this long ass compliance questionnaire, 400 questions. I said, you're going to have to give me time. They're like, we need it in 48 hours. I'm like, there's like 300 questions to fill out. Right? And they're not like yes, no questions. I have to actually write stuff out. So I'm like, okay, like this is going to take me time. Let me review it. I'll get back to you in 2 days and then give you some timelines. They're like, no, we need to submit it in 2 days. We have a proposal, and there's a whole backstory to it. Now they're frustrated. Well, I'm like, when did you know? Right? And then they knew weeks back they needed to do it, but they only got it in front of me like 2 days before. So I'm like, okay. The 2 days after, right, I notified them. I said, look, I can't get this done in time. Right. I looked over it. There's like 300 questions. They're asking for artifacts. We have to do screen captures and stuff. There's a lot of information to do it. So they lost their mind. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Then I had to go back and I had to sit there and go, okay, what did I miss here? Like, why is it coming to me last minute? And I realized I never set the expectation that if you have questionnaires that are coming out, that you need to let me know immediately. Like immediately. You need to let me know so we can start to review it and strategize and start setting timelines, because not only myself, but other team members might need to be involved to be able to collect this information. And I took that and I realized that was on me. That's not just on them. I didn't set the right expectation of how to work with me to be able to get the deliverables how they wanted it. And I think that was really important for me to learn a lesson for myself. And then, yes, that didn't work out for the client. They're upset. It happens, but lessons learned. And that's why I'm giving you guys a real world example, how I learned to be better at how to articulate how I work with, with clients, how I make sure I level set and make sure I have my expectation, and also how I evaluate where's my accountability in this. Because I find sometimes, and I used to do this myself, where I would attack, right? Someone would come after me and I would attack back. Oh, but you guys didn't do this and you guys didn't do that. I've learned better now to just kind of go, okay, sorry, and ask questions. Okay, so what hasn't happened? What didn't I do? Okay, what's going on? Okay, and then let me recap this. Just so, is there anything else I'm missing? Recap everything, and then kind of go, okay, let me sit with this. I'll get back to you. And then I review it and kind of go, okay, what was I really accountable for? What did I miss? And then what didn't I do? Or what was not my accountability? It was not my responsibility. And then when you go through it, I can kind of go, okay, I'm so sorry I missed this, and this. That's my fault. I know we should have worked with your team, and I'm softer on that with these areas to kind of get this done. Again, not my responsibility, but I soften it versus saying, it's not me, it's your other team. I know I should have worked with your team to do that. So I make it a little bit softer, and I make sure that as I go through it, it's more of a collaborative approach. And then it level sets the team. We get all on the same page and we start working forward. Just looking through some of my notes. Cyber isn't just technical; it's a behavior. Both attackers and defenders rely on psychology. Right. So think about that too. Like when you're going through it, a lot of us look at the tools, but we don't take into consideration the actual social engineering, the psychology behind it, how they're manipulating people, things along that line, which we need to think about as we go through this process. And you need to think about how it's impacting the clients. It might not be directly, hey, you got a phishing campaign, they social engineer you. It might be the reaction from what's happening. They're getting, a brute force attack, but they're now escalating over here, still affecting their psychology. Offense psychology, attacks exploit, cognitive bias, urgencies, authority, fear, greed. So again, you see that where they're putting pressure. I've seen with threat actors when they're calling organizations in the middle of an engagement and they're harassing them, right? They're calling them on their customer service line, what's going on, we need to speak to X, Y, Z, and they're putting pressure in the organization and creating like a stir. Defense psychology, responders under stress can misjudge, tunnel focus, or overlook key indicators. I worked with a colleague a couple of days ago. We were looking at how to configure something, and I could tell their experience was hands-on keyboard because they were looking at the tool. I said, hold on a second. The tool's configured. What else is going on? Let's look holistically. We had to find out the tool was configured properly, but it wasn't updating and pushing the policy properly. And once we pushed the policy, everything worked fine. But they spent half an hour to an hour on the tool that they already configured, and they went over the configuration, trying to find more configuration. I'm like, okay, go through the configuration. Has it set? Yes. Okay, great. What else does it? Where is it not communicating that's not working? Where is it breaking? So having that tunnel vision, sometimes you have to step back. You have to take a step back, or you have to bring someone else into the picture to kind of go, okay, let's think of a different avenue, different aspect of it. Building psychology resilience in the teams, training to stay calm under high pressure events. Something we talk about with cybersecurity awareness training, right, is that giving yourself a break. You get an email, phone call, whatever that may be, the urgency to answer, to step back and go, okay, hold on. I don't need to answer that right now. I'm busy. I'm in a meeting. I'm doing something else. I'm distracted. Let me get back to that. Then when you're not distracted and you have email time, you go back and you read it and you realize the subject line spelled wrong. They're asking for something else. They're asking you to do an invoice, but you don't do invoices. Like they're asking for confidential. They're asking you to click on the link. You're like, I don't click on this link. Why do I do that? Now you're in a more calm state. You can see that versus when you're in a rush, high pressure, stressful state, you might make a mistake that you know better. And I want to put that out there. A lot of times when I talk to these people, they're like, yeah, I knew I shouldn't have clicked on the link. I knew I shouldn't have done that. And I get it. And that's why I say, take your time. Using behavioral insight for insider threat detection, sudden behavior shifts, communication tone, turning awareness training into a repeatable exposure, emotional context, memory retention, so for them to go through it again and again and again and make sure that they feel numb to that. Oh, this is just a phishing campaign, not, oh my God, like, what do I do? So got one last question. Just see one popped up. Thanks for sharing. I have a question for a different topic though. I have my last round of interviews for a SOC tier 1 role. Congratulations. With the hiring manager and the BISO, the Business Information Security Officer. I'm kind of nervous. Any advice? I've been using AI to cover the common questions, but I appreciate it if you have any suggestions. Generally, when you're at now I'm going to say this, depending on where you are in the interview. So if you're in the last round of interviews, normally they're interviewing to see if you're a right fit for the team. Right? They're kind of seeing your relationship at the point, because they've done the technical interview. They've gone through that, which potentially you've already passed. They've done the HR interview. Now they're looking at, do you fit with the team? Like, do they feel comfortable that they can work with you? Now there's going to be some technical questions, right? Like, how do you look at responses, alerts, things along that line, things you're probably looking at already, you've already answered. Really know that down. You might have to answer that again if they haven't interviewed before, like especially on the BISO. He might be looking on instant response, how to respond, how do you look at threat hunting, things along that line, like how do you kind of really work through your methodology and talk in processes. Well, when I get alert, then I do this, and then I do that, and then I do this, and then I do this. Like, kind of walk through that process of getting alert, looking to see if it's a false positive, false negative, identifying, doing some research on it, quickly to identify if there's more action needed. If there's more action needed, then I would go through this process. I'd make sure I document things through the process. I'd make sure that I document, what's my findings, where I'm finding it, what time I'm doing it, make sure I have thorough documents and notes for myself as well as for the team. Then through that, if it needs to be escalated, I'll escalate it accordingly, right, to the team, to the second level, SOC level 2 analysts. And then I'll have them kind of go through their steps. And then I will follow it for myself, just for lessons learned, to see what I can learn from that, maybe things I could improve. So I'm using that as an example of a life cycle I would go through. It's good. I understand, like we talked about earlier, that you're using AI. Make sure you know it too. Like, you're not reading on the left or the side. Make sure you know the information, because it's going to help you be more connected to the people that are interviewing versus, what I would do is step 1, I would do this. And then step 2, I would do that. And you're kind of leading, or some people, I've seen it. I'll use this example. I have my phone, but they have like their phone, like right in front of the screen, so they can read it and slightly look down. So that's my recommendation. Good luck. Let us know in the community, like tag me too, and how you do on the next interview. Hopefully you get it. Knock on wood. Okay, so we're at 158. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming out. Hopefully you got some of your questions answered. You guys got a lot of great information on just different areas of cybersecurity. Probably in the new year. Right now, I'm still trying to look at getting more guests on the show. It's been a busy time for myself and other people to align that. I've had some people reach out to me, so I'm working on that. So hopefully, knock on wood, in the new year, we'll start getting some more people interview. I want to get some more insight from some experts in the industry, and I love to learn from other people. So that's it for Daily Cyber. Thank you so much for listening and following. Please share this with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and just don't forget, software is hackable. Being connected is vulnerable. I'll see you next Daily Cyber.